السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. دكتور نضال الصالحي, Faculty of Business, University of Petra. Today we will continue with classes. Today is Monday, 23 March 2020. We will start today with Chapter 5, Design of Goods and Services. Okay, let's start first with the outline. You can review the outline by yourself. You can see what are the main topics that we are going to discuss in this chapter. This is still the outline. Learning objectives. At the end of this chapter, when we finish, you try to evaluate yourself by using these learning objectives. For example, if you can define the product life cycle, describe a product development system, and so on, you will do it by yourself as usual at the end of this chapter. Now, let's start with goods and services selection. As you know, our title for this chapter is Design of Goods and Services. So how do we select our goods or services? Organizations, companies in general, exist to provide good or service to society. When we say Toyota, cars, okay? When we say Mitsubishi, cars. When we say hotels, service. When we say Sony, let's say TVs, and so on. Great products are the key to success. Great products. And as you can see, a lot of famous companies, they have great success. Why? Because their products are distinguished. iPhone, Samsung, as we said a while ago when we talk about, let's say, Ford, Mercedes, and so on. Now, top organizations typically focus on core products. As you know, a lot of companies, they have diversification in their products. Yani a lot of products, many different products, like Nestle, like let's say, like also Mitsubishi, they have many products. But organization usually they concentrate on the core product, which is the most important product for them, that has a high market share and a high profitability and profit growth. Now, customers buy satisfaction. Okay, the customers, when they buy from you your goods or services, they buy satisfaction, not only the good or the service itself. They should be satisfied. That's why here we have to talk about the customer value. You have to care as a management how customers perceive your products. We call it a customer value. From their point of view, you have to make sure that they are satisfied with your customers. And satisfaction, of course, will come in both ways. It will come from the quality itself, and it will come from the price also. Anyway, we will discuss this later on. Now, fundamental to an organization's strategy, designing goods or selection of goods and services, it is a very essential thing for any company, okay, with implications through the operation function. And of course, our concentration here will be on the operations because, you know, our course is production and operations management. Now, let's proceed. Goods and services selections, we are still in the same topic. Goods or services are the basis of an organization's existence. As we said, without your goods or services, you cannot exist as a company. That's why you should have a competitive advantage in order to sustain and in order to continue, okay, existing. Limited and predictable life cycles requires constantly looking for designing and developing new products. Now, as we all know, nowadays, okay, always the product life cycle, it's not really long as it was before. It is short. It is becoming shorter and shorter. That's why companies okay, should always think, or organizations must always think of new products, to develop new products. When we see, if we look at Samsung and iPhone, they always thinking of new products. You have the S9, then you have the S10. They are thinking now of the S11. Why? Because the product life cycle, with the 4 stages that we know, it is becoming shorter and shorter, and the only way to have a competitive advantage is to have a continuous product development through designing new products, of course. Yani, when we say products, goods or services. Now, new products generate substantial revenue. Okay, when you have always a new product, your revenue will be higher. Okay, that's why if your current product will reach, as we can see also after a while, the decline stage, then you have to think of new one in order to keep your revenue high, your sales revenue high, of course. What is product decision? Now, our objective here in this topic, which is the product decision, is to develop and implement product strategy that meets the demands of the marketplace with a competitive advantage. And we have to focus here. We are not only after designing goods and services or offering products, goods or services to the market without a competitive advantage. Why? Because the intensity of competition nowadays, as we said a while ago, is very high. That's why you have to offer the right product, which will assure for the company, and will assure you that you are going to have a competitive advantage and a sustainable competitive advantage, of course, at the same time. Now, the product decision also links investment, market share, product life cycle, and product line decision. They link them together depending on our market share. Now, for example, if your product still have a high market share, then you will just wait, especially in the maturity stage. I mean, you will not think of a new product. And at the same time, if you are going to develop a new product, you should have the right investment for that. That's why later on we will link between investment, market share, product life cycle, and product line decision together. They should, as you know, they are related to each other. There are 3 major subdivisions, let's say, of the product decision are. Please listen to me carefully. Now, if you suppose that you want to produce a new car, sport car. So, when we say sport car, here you are making a selection, which is the first stage, the first step in the product decision, which is the selection of the product. So, in our example, sport car, this is the selection. Now, the second step, you have to go to the definition, okay, of the product. Now, in the definition of product, we are talking about specification of the sport car. Okay, the speed, the design, let's say the space, I mean the size of the car, is it spacious from within, from inside or not, 2 doors, 4 doors, whatever. We are talking about specification. Now, then after that, the third step, we will start designing the product as we define it. Okay, then I will repeat. So first of all, you select the product that you are going to develop. In our example, for example, it's a sport car for Lamborghini, for example, or any company. Then the definition. When we say definition, we mean the specification, the detailed specifications of the car, okay, in terms of speed, as we said, size, and then you start designing the car. And of course, this will be discussed also further later on. Product strategy options. Now, when you offer the market with a certain product, you have strategic options or strategy options. You have usually 3 options. Okay, it could be differentiation, as we can see here. Product design links to differentiation, or cost, okay, and the responsiveness to customers. Of course, fast responsiveness to customers. Okay, so there are three. We call them advantages. Sometimes we call them strategies that you can select for your product. Among them, sometimes you can use more than one. You can combine them together if you want. Some companies, they will use one of them, differentiation or cost. Okay, but of course, when you say differentiation and cost, it can there should, sometimes they can combine together, but sometimes for some companies they let's say separate them from each other. When we speak, for example, of let's take or let's cover the three strategy options. Differentiation, we speak of differentiation advantage or differentiation strategy is related to quality. Okay, yani if I, as a company, I have a differentiation advantage like let's say Toyota, then I will care much about quality. Okay, low cost, it is related to price. As you know, always give me reason to buy from you. It's either the quality, okay, which is the differentiation advantage, or the cost, which is or the price, sorry, which is the low cost advantage. The third one, the third advantage or the third option of the strategy that you can select, which is the rapid response. Now, responsiveness to customer, to their wants and to their needs is very important. And as we all know, because Nokia was very late in responding to the smartphones, which is a want and a need of the customer in the market at that time, they were left behind. That's why it's very important for you to care about these three advantages. We call it as a competitive advantages, or these three options for your product before you launch it in the market. Now let's go to a very important topic, which is product life cycle. As I said a while ago in previous slides, we said that we have to link the design of the product, to the product life cycle. Now, what is product life cycle? The product life cycle, the length usually of your product. For example, the length of S10 in the market might be it might be 1 day, or it could last 2 decades. But of course, when it comes to mobiles and phones like Samsung, of course it will not last this long. But in general, we can say that the product life cycle can length from a few days to decades. Okay, now the operations functions must be able to introduce new products successfully. You always have to think of new products. Why? Because your product has a limited life, in the market, which of course it will prevent from continuing with your sales and revenues. Then if you don't really think of new product, you will be left behind. Let's start with the product life cycle. The life cycle has an introduction, as we all know, introduction stage, growth stage, maturity stage, and decline stage. And I am sure that all of you have seen the curve, because we discussed this in previous chapters. Okay, now here today we will relate between three things. Now, especially in the next slide, we will see it as a graph. We will relate between sales, cost, and profits. Again, sales, cost, and profits. We will correlate between them in accordance to the product life cycle stages, which is the growth, the introduction, growth, maturity, and decline stage. Now, as you can see, if your product is still new in the market, then your cash flow at the start will be negative. And you don't expect that you will have profit or revenue at the start. Second thing, the cost of your product will be high at first. That's why we will have, as I said, a negative cash flow. Then you will not have profit at that period, at the start. Now it takes time for revenue to grow, okay, or to grow, sorry, and at the same time takes time for each flow to exceed assets needs during introduction and growth. Maybe we can understand these points from the next graph. This graph now will explain what we were talking about in the most recent slide, which is the previous slide. As you can see, we have two variables here. On the x-axis, on the x-axis, as you can see, it is the product life cycle stages: introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. And on the y-axis, we have the three important elements that we have to relate to each other or correlate to each other, which is of course sales cost and cash flow. Now, as you can see, now this line, the blue one, stands for the cost of development, the cost of the development, designing the product and developing the product. Now, here, this line, it will represent the sales revenue. If we'll have more lines, okay, the third line here, as you can see, it is the cash flow line. Please try to concentrate with me so that we can explain what we have discussed in the previous slide. Now, as you can see, the cost will be very high in the introduction stage, okay, at the start, as we said a while ago. Then it will start declining up until the last stage. And at the same time, if you can see the sales, your sales revenue, okay, at the start, it will be not so high. It's going up, increasing and increasing, but it will take the bigness, the bigness of your revenues, your profit, your sales will be on the maturity stage, as you can see. That's why sometimes we call the maturity stage as the cash cow. After that, of course, after the maturity stage, it will start declining. As we can see, your sales revenue, your profit will start declining. Now, if we go to the cash flow, you see we have a negative cash flow. It's under here, under the line. Okay, so at the start, when you introduce a new product, you will have a negative cash flow at the start, especially in the introduction stage and somewhere in a part of the growth stage. But after that, we will start, what we say, your cash flow will start increasing, as you can see, and the highest of your cash flow will be, or your profit, whatever, it will be on the also maturity stage. And after that, it will start declining, okay, and of course you will start thinking of a new product. If you notice here, the yellow or the brown color, here it's your profit. You can see here you will start making profit in the maturity stage almost, but in the previous stages you don't have any profit, okay, so your profit will start here. Now in the decline stage, at the end of your decline stage, you will have again, okay, some losses, okay, because your cash flow will differ. Let's move now to explain the 4 stages in details of the product life cycle. As we know, the first stage is the introduction phase or introduction stage. At this stage, you have to focus, okay, in your strategy as we all know, at the start you need a fine-tuning, and this fine-tuning may warrant unusual expenses, which means, in other words, that at the start, in the introduction stage, your product will need high expenses. High expenses on what? Research, of course, because you are in the research and development stage, okay, and it needs also product development. You need product development expenses, process modification and enhancement, especially when you introduce your your product at the start, still you will be able to make some modifications, and these modifications of course need expenses, and of course you need to develop your new suppliers, especially if your new product needs new material or new raw material. That's why you have to look for new suppliers. And I mean, when I say suppliers, not any suppliers, of course, there will be reliable suppliers, especially if your advantage or your strategy is a differentiation strategy which care about quality or focus about quality. The second stage is the growth stage or the growth phase in the product life cycle. Here at this stage you have to focus on the product design, and of course you should know that the product design will begin to stabilize. Okay, we make modification maybe or enhancement before that, but when you are already in the growth stage, that means that there is also there is now a kind of stability in your product design, and you don't need to make modification most of the time. Now, effective forecasting of capacity becomes necessary, and here is a very important point. Forecasting in the growth stage, your forecasting will be critical. Why? Because it will decide the result of your forecasting using, of course, the quantitative methods that we have discussed in chapter 4. You will try to forecast your demand and sales. Okay, then you will try to prepare yourself, okay, for the capacity expansion. For example, if you expect more sales, then you have to expand your capacity in terms of course, equipment, machines, personnel, financial resources, human resources, capabilities, and so on. Okay, now also at this stage, adding or enhancing capacity may be necessary. As I said, I explained the 2 points together. So you have to look if my capacity now in terms of the people, human resources, financial resources, my material resources, is it enough, or I have to expand. Sometimes you have to add warehouses, sometimes you have, let's say, to add more sales centers, distribution channels, okay, and so on, depending on the result of your forecast. The third stage, which is the maturity stage or the maturity phase, and as I told you, here your revenue, your profit will be the highest. I mean the sales revenue, okay, and the volume that you are selling, it will be the highest. In other words, you will have the highest market share at this stage. That's why, as we said, some scientists, they said that this is the cash cow stage of the company. That's why good management, they will try to extend the life of their product at this stage as long as they can, because there is a great chance of getting more revenues and profits. Now, competitors here are established. I already know my competitors. Not like in the introduction stage or the growth stage. I don't really know the stand of my competitors, but now I know my competitors. Here, as I said, high volume of sales, innovative production may be needed. Why innovative production? Because in the third point, as you can see, as much as you can here, you will try to reduce cost. As you see in the third point, you have to reduct or to make certain ways in order to increase efficiency and reduce cost. Of course, if you reduce cost, then your efficiency will be higher. Why? And of course, at the same time, you have to reduce your options. If you have many options of the same product, okay, colors of cars, for example, you have 10 colors, you can make it 4 or 5 or 6 at the end of the maturity stage phase. At the end of the maturity stage. Now, bearing down of product lines, you will start also thinking how to reduce your product lines depending on the elimination of certain options if you decided that. Now, The decline stage, of course, it's easy to talk about it unless product makes a special contribution, means profit, to the organization must plan to terminate offering. Yani if the product is not sellable anymore, it does not make any profit or contribution to the company, then we have to sell, so we have to terminate this product and think of designing a new product. Product by value analysis. What do we mean by product by value analysis? Now, sometimes at your company you have more than, as I said a while ago, a diversified or a portfolio of products or more than one product. So what do we mean by product by value analysis? We will try to analyze or to use the value analysis as a tool to help us determine what products to develop and by what strategy. How? By following 3 steps. The first step, we have to rank our current products in descending order, not ascending, descending order, okay, of their individual dollar contribution to the firm. Yani we will see which product among our current products has the highest profit per unit, let's say. Then we will put it the first one. So we'll rank them from highest to lowest in terms of contribution or in terms of profit. And you should know here, you can see here in red, analysis of products sorted by contribution to firm per unit and total. So we'll take it per unit, then after that we will take the total in dollars. Second step lists the total annual dollar contribution. Yani we will not just have the contribution or the profit per unit only for one day. We will have it per year on the same, of course, rank, which is the descending one. Then if you want to define what is contribution, of course, contribution is the difference between your price and your cost, or the price of the unit, and the cost of the unit. This will be equal, yani we can say it as a formula, price minus cost will be equal to contribution. Now, the product by value analysis, it will help us a lot, or it will help the management a lot in order to evaluate alternative strategies. What does it mean? It means that the management, if they use value analysis, they can decide which product to eliminate or terminate and which product to keep, based, of course, on the results in step 1 and step 2. Now, another tool is used usually in designing goods or services is what we call the quality function deployment, QFD. Quality function deployment refers to first determining what will satisfy the customer. This is number 1. Yani we have to think, okay, what will satisfy our customer? Because as we said a while ago, customers, they don't buy only the physical goods or service, they buy satisfaction. And the second thing, translating the customer desires into a target design. Okay, so we have to look first what satisfy our customers, then after that we have to see what specifications we can add, what design of our products or service we can do in order to meet the satisfaction of customers or the expectations of customers. Now, QFD is also the manner that an organization goes about matching customer wants with the capabilities of the firm. Of course, now maybe the wants of the customers in terms of specification, maybe those specifications are very high, and my capabilities sometimes is not enough in order to meet those desires of the customers or those wants or specifications for a particular product or service. Now, there is a tool, very famous tool, but for you as a bachelor student at this stage, maybe you don't know it, something we call it a house of quality. The house of quality is one tool of the QFD, which is the quality function deployment. It is a graph, رسم بياني technique for defining the relationship between customer desires, as we said, and your product. And maybe if you go through Google, or if you go to the reference of the books in the syllabus, maybe you can find now ebooks, you can see that graph. You will see a specification, for example, a camera, a digital camera. You will see the specification of the camera, and according, of course, to the customer wants and needs, and they will compare those specifications with the specifications that the competitors can offer within. And it looks like a house, by the way. You try to see it, but as of now, what I need from you at this stage to know that the house of quality is one tool, and to know the definition of the house of quality, which is in red. Manufacturability and value engineering. Now, value engineering. What's the meaning of value engineering? Okay, we have a process, we have a product. Can we really use value engineering in order to improve our product? Okay, we will see later on how, by example, after this slides, but let's first see what value engineering can do in terms of the benefits for the company. Reduce complexity of the product. Maybe I can show you, then go back. I will go advance one slide with this example, then I go back to the same slide to take the other points. You can see here, you see, value engineering, what value engineering can do. Look at this bracket. Bracket number 1. Okay, the cost is $3.5. Bracket number 2, it's more simple, it's less complicated. Why? Because we did a value engineering on it. Yani the first product, we modify it, we make a value engineering, we reduce the complexity of the product, the cost is less, which is only 2 instead of 3.5, with the same purpose, the same aim of the product. Okay, again, we'll try to use value engineering again. We try to modify the design. We modify it this way. We reduce some components, but still the product have the same aim with very much less cost, which is only less than $1, which is 0.80 dollar, okay, or cents, or 80 cents. Go back to our points after you understand what we are talking about now. It will also help you to make a reduction of the environmental impact, and it will be friendly to the environment. Value engineering will help you how to produce products which is friendly to the environment, lighter, easy to move, less waste, and so on. Also, it will help us to have additional standardization of components, like in IKEA. Okay, IKEA, their components are all standardized. You can easily assemble that at your home. Improvement of functional aspects of the products. They can add also more functions to the products, like phones. Now you can see when they use value engineering with the phones, when they modify it, they improve it, they will add more functions for you. Or calculators, if you sometimes go to the malls and try to look at the calculators, you try to read to read some notes, okay, or about the number of the functions that the calculator can do. Some calculators will make, let's say, 200 functions, but now we have calculators who do more than 500 functions at the same time. And this is, of course, was through value engineering. Now, improve job design and job safety, and of course it will help us to improve, especially the job safety for our employee. Also, value engineering will help us improve maintainability, serviceability of the product when we make it more simple, lighter, more space, like the engine of the car, for example. There should be spaces, okay, in order for mechanics to be able to maintain the engine. It should be designed in a way that it will be easy to maintain, and it should be, of course, robust design. A robust design اللي هو التصميم المتين, and we will talk about the robust design, of course, maybe next meeting in the other slides in details, even the components and the modular models. We will talk about it next meeting in details, inshallah. We have discussed, of course, this example. It's a very good example for the previous slide. Issues of product design. You see, as I promise you, as I have promised you, you see, robust design is the first one. We will talk about it. Modular design, computer-aided design, which is the CAD, computer-aided manufacturing, which is the CAM, and the value analysis. We will talk about those issues of product design next meeting, inshallah. Thank you very much. I would like to remind you that there was today a quiz for our course. Many of you did not show up, and this is a negative sign. I am pleasing you all next meeting to be there on the class time, at least to be there, or in other time you try to read the material, see the videos in many times, but always expect every Monday that there might be a quiz, a very short quiz, maybe 4 or 5 questions only, with 1 point. Please try to be always ready for anything. Thank you. I will see you next meeting. I hope I will see you all fine. Thank you.